On this episode of Doing the Most, we're talking about the top 10 homebrew hacks for beginners.
Homebrews and various how-tos, everything from mead to roast, bake creation, fermentation, inebriation, doing the most.
A lot of folks make their way to our YouTube channel looking for homebrewing content, which is awesome. That seems to mean that the hobby is on the incline. A lot of those folks that land on our channel are beginner brewers, which we love. So to help y'all out, I want you to learn from the mistakes that I made when I was a beginner brewer. So we put together this top 10 list of things I wish I had known when I started brewing. And the beverage for this episode is a barley wine Bochet. I'll put the original recipe for this in a card and in the description. Number 1, STARSAN in a bottle. As you began your homebrewing journey, you probably learned that sanitizing is important. And the best way to sanitize is to use a no-rinse sanitizer like STARSAN. And there's plenty of other ones out there. I prefer STARSAN. And for most uses, you can just dunk your equipment or bottles directly into the STARSAN, swish them around. But for some applications, it's kind of nice to have STARSAN in a spray bottle. One of the added benefits is it's not going to gas out very well, provided that this is properly sealed, maybe with some plumber's tape. Sanitizer in a bottle is great for those applications where it may be difficult to dunk things or rinse things in sanitizer. You can just easily mist it on, rub it in, and in a couple minutes you're good to go. Number 2, mason jars are your friend. Now, it actually took me a few years to learn this one. And I really came around to the idea when I started using more advanced yeast nutrient schedules, particularly in mead making, when I learned that the nutrients like Fermaid and GoFirm are very sticky. They arrive in a bag like this. Opening and closing that bag, pouring it out of the little pour spout that you've cut in the bag is very messy. And you'll learn over time that a nice sticky residue of nutrient will aggregate on the outside of the bag. Skip all that, put anything that's loose in a mason jar, seal it up nice and tight. One of the great things about these is they stack pretty well, and it keeps everything very well contained. Number 3, buy 2 of everything. Now, I say buy 2 of everything. I don't mean buy 2 of every expensive thing in your home brewing kit. But what I really mean is, if it's economical, buy 2 of everything. I learned this lesson the hard way when I was going to bottle some wine and my bottling wand broke. So then I had to messily bottle wine by pinching off the tubing and transferring it bottle to bottle, which is a real pain and creates a mess. So had I had 2 bottling wands, that wouldn't have been a problem. Bottling wands are like $5-6 a piece. Just get 2, or get a stainless steel one. I'm always in favor of stainless steel. But again, if it's economical, just get 2. And that goes for other things like Sparkaloid. Sparkaloid is pretty expensive to get just like a little 1-ounce bottle. Buy a pound of it, it's like $15, and it will last you seemingly forever. My bag has. Number 4, your bottling wand can be a wine thief. So you've probably seen a wine thief. It's kind of like a turkey baster type of thing. And it's used to draw wine or any kind of homebrew up out of the fermentation carboy and put it into another container, like a graduated cylinder if you're taking a hydrometer reading. But in a pinch, like say you wanted to taste a little bit of a 1-gallon batch, this works just the same way. God, that needs to be cleaned. But let me show you what I mean. When you were a kid, did you ever put your straw down inside your drink, put your thumb over it, and lift it up and out? Same kind of concept with your bottling wand. You can stick it in, pump the stopper a few times, and draw some liquid out. Easy as that. Now I've got sanitizer in my mead. So this is kind of a weird little hack, but if you need it, say you just want to grab a quick taste and see how something's doing, your bottling wand is your friend. And of course, be sure to sanitize it. Number 5, schedule your rackings. When you need to rack something, you need to have it moved, typically many days in advance, at least 24 hours in advance, unless the lease at the bottom is just incredibly well compacted. Even then, moving it more than like 10 or 12 feet could create problems, even if you've got a nice compaction at the bottom of your fermenter. Scheduling your rackings helps avoid these foibles. So, for example, in a recent video, I was racking a Chardonnay before driving that Chardonnay, 5 gallons of it, all the way across town. I knew when I was gonna probably want to be moving it, so I made sure to place it on the elevated surface I was gonna be racking from well ahead of time. That way I didn't get into a spot where I need to rack it, but it's not elevated, and moving it stirs up all that lees. So schedule your rackings, know when you're gonna be needing to rack your brew from one vessel to another so you can be prepared for it when that time comes. It can be a real bummer when you're going to rack something and you realize it's 2 rooms away on the floor. So schedule those out, make sure it's moved to an elevated surface ahead of time, and you'll have no worries. Number 6, ditch the bubbler. Those of you who have been following the channel for a while know that I have a preference for silicone airlocks. And perhaps not weirdly, I get a lot of comments and messages from people asking about these airlocks. You can find them on Amazon. I will put a link in the description, but these are a breathable silicone bung. It's a 2-piece little contraption where the valve is held on with pressure from how it's seated into the bottom, the bung part. And so this creates a very tight seal where air, bad little buggies can't get in, but CO2 can get out. So I prefer these because these require no maintenance and they're incredibly reliable, and I've got a whole video on that on our channel. Now, I was a beginner homebrewer once myself, and I remember watching the bubbles rise and pop out of my bubbler airlocks, and it is a very rewarding feeling to know that your fermentation is doing what you hope it's doing. And the best I can offer is sometimes these whistle when the pressure is really high, which can be kind of interesting if it happens at like 2 a.m. But in the long run, these are gonna save you a lot of time and concern over these. These have to be topped up. Stuff gets in them from below, stuff gets in them from above. Just a real pain. Go with these. And for those wondering, these fit 5 and 6 gallon carboys, but I've also had luck getting them into the mouths of those 1 gallon cider jugs that you get from like Sprouts or Whole Foods. So totally awesome. They cost quite a bit more than these, about double, $7 versus like $3, but I totally think that they're worth the investment. Ditch the bubbler. Number 7, rinse your empty bottles. I don't know why it seems to have taken me a long time to learn this one, but rinsing your bottles after you empty them rather than when you need them is the smarter way to go. And there's not really much more to say on this. If you pour a bottle into a glass, rinse the bottle immediately. Rinse it a couple of times, give it a couple of good shakes, and put it away. You will save yourself trying to get sticky gunk out of the bottom of that bottle in the future. I promise you. Even more next level, most 12-ounce beer bottles fit pretty well into a large flat rate USPS box. Put a trash bag into the box, line the box with your bottles, cinch up the trash bag, seal up the box, and put it away. This will keep stuff from getting in your clean bottles, and you should only need to sanitize them when you need them. Any newly cleaned bottles can go back in that trash bag and cinched back up. The caveat that you want them to be completely dry when you put them in there. No mildew, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 8, freeze your fruit. I'm always kind of surprised when I see a homebrewing picture and somebody's got completely fresh fruit chopped up in there. Fresh fruit will ferment fine and eventually it will ferment completely, but you're gonna have a lot better time with juice extraction when you're fermenting from frozen and then thawed fruit. The benefit is, as Alton Brown says, frozen fruit is frozen at the peak of freshness, so you're getting perfectly fresh fruit that's been flash frozen. The little ice particles inside the fruit will shatter most of the cell walls in there and help release the juice once it's thawed. Just freeze your fruit. Just freeze your fruit, thaw it out the day you're brewing, and then pitch it into your fermentation vessel. It'll definitely speed things up, and you won't feel the need to be sitting around chopping up fruit because it'll kind of just fall apart once it goes in there. Freeze your fruit. Bonus tip, wholesale stores like Chef Supply stores often sell frozen fruit in their freezer sections, and they sell it in huge quantities in plastic bags, and you can buy it much cheaper than you would buy it at your local grocery store. Just a heads up. Number 9, reuse your yeast. A lot of times we get done with primary fermentation, we rack it off into our secondary vessel, slosh that yeast slurry up, and dump it out in the garden. But if you're a new home brewer, you know that yeast, it's not expensive, but it's not cheap either. And if you like a yeast, reuse it. We've got a video on yeast washing. I'll put that in the description and in a card. And it's not that difficult. There's several ways of doing it. I like ours because it's simple, but one second. These are my yeasty friends. I've got different strains that are washed, saved. I got these little vials off of Amazon. At any point, I can throw these into some water or some juice with GoFirm, and I can bring them back to life. Easy peasy, very easy. They're strains I like. No reason to pay a bunch for more yeast. Like for example, this hothead yeast, it's a Vic strain. It's not cheap. This was like $11 for one packet for one 6-gallon batch. So I washed the yeast and now I've got 3 more that I can pitch. And bonus tip, if you really want to cheap out, just make a lemonade wine like Skeeter Pea and mix all your ingredients up on top of that yeast slurry. And of course, we've got a video on that too. And finally, number 10, and I'll warn you, this one may annoy the creative types out there. Make batch labels. Now, I'm not talking about those fun and fancy labels that everybody likes to make for their first batch. You've seen the posts on social media. First batch just went into fermenter. What do you think of my label? We've all seen it. You know you've seen it. And I'm a creative type. My day job is primarily branding and graphic design. So I get it. It's a fun creative pursuit. However, those things can be a pain in the rear to get back off of the bottles. So I have learned the minimalist art of creating batch labels. A batch label can have your fun little winery or brew house logo on it, and it contains blanks for you to fill in. My batch labels have ABV, when it was bottled, and what the style was. I order my batch labels as return address labels on Vistaprint. And the reason I do that is this semi-gloss paper that they have has a very delicate adhesive that sticks great to bottles, works great in and out of the fridge, even with some condensation. But you dunk that sucker in OxyClean or STARSAN for a couple of minutes and that label slides right off. I know it isn't fun, I know it isn't sexy, but it tells you what's in the bottle and it comes right off when it's time to reuse that bottle. And I can tell you, it's saved me plenty of headaches over the years, but I do appreciate some of the lovelier labels I've designed over the years. Make batch labels. So that's it, our top 10 homebrew hacks for beginner brewers. I hope you learned something in this. If you did, let me know in the comments. Or if you've got a riff on one of the hacks or a hack that you've developed yourself, also, let us know in the comments. I am always eager to learn creative ways of cutting corners while homebrewing and still making something delicious. Our website is doingthemost.org, and you can find us on Instagram and Pinterest at doingthemostok. Make sure to friend us on Instagram. We'll friend you back. We love looking at all the DIY, doing the most kind of content on Instagram these days. Super fun, very inspiring. I know this video is a little bit of a departure from our usual, but I've been building this list in my head for a while, and it felt like it was time to finally put it out into the universe. So thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.